You're listening to the Word Slinger Podcast, episode 139, Werecats in a No-Werewolf Zone with Mark Engels. This episode of the Word Slinger Podcast is brought to you by Draft to Digital. Convert your manuscript, distribute it online, and get support the whole way at drafttodigital.com.
It's the Word Slinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented pants optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger.
Word Slinger.
Hey, everybody, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger. Just before these little clips go live, I know I come on all put together and smooth sometimes, but just before I actually hit the record button, man, you should hear the level of noise and phlegm that is happening on this side of the mic. Sorry about that. That's TMI. That's TMI for some folks. For some of you, you're going to laugh, and I appreciate that laughter. So this week I'm talking with somebody. It's funny how things happen. This connection came to me because of another interview and another guest, and it's on a topic. In general, there's a general topic that is interesting and intriguing to me. It's not the kind of thing I want to get involved in because it just doesn't appeal to me on that level. But it appeals to me on the level of sort of an anthropology level, because as I talk to more and more people who do this, who are involved in this, it's just intriguing to me, like the reasons behind why they do it. And what they find interesting about it, and what they find compelling about it. It's intriguing. I think it tells you something interesting about humanity. Not to play it up too much, but I'm talking with Mark Engels, and we're talking about his books. We're talking about the fantasy books that he writes, and he wrote Always Gray in Winter, and this is a Werecat story. But he takes some inspiration from the whole furries movement and the whole furries culture. That's something that it's something I find interesting, and you may too. So I'm happy to present this interview. Stick around. After the interview with Mark, I've got some industry news you're going to want to hear. I've got some really cool ones this week that I would love to hear some feedback on. So, and I know a few of you have written. I'm sorry if I haven't written you back yet. I'm working on it. It's been a busy week this week. I got some emails earlier this week that I still need to jump into. I apologize, but I promise I will get to them. Thank you for hopping in and being a supporter, and for giving me your feedback. It always helps to get that. So, without further ado, let's jump on in. Let's take a listen to Mark Engels as he talks about Werecats in a No-Werewolf Zone. Hello, everybody. Thank you for, you actually stuck around at least through the intro of the show. So bravo and thank you. I appreciate that. And you're not going to regret it. We're actually talking to Mark Engels. He's the author of Always Gray in Winter, which is... if you just going by the cover alone at this point, man, it's an interesting looking book. So I'm going to have to check it out. Werecats. That's something you don't hear about very often. So how are you, Mark? Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for having me as the host of your interview today.
Thank you, Kevin. Glad to be here. And for the listeners at home, this is what he's talking about.
Yeah. If you're listening, you didn't see that. If you're watching on the nifty new YouTube channel, you got to see a preview of the cover, which you'll also see in the show notes. So we're gonna hook you up, Mark. So how are you, man? I'd like to kind of open up first, really talking about the book, if you don't mind. I mean, I know
Sure.
we have plenty to chat about. You have a whole other topic that we'll get to, but why don't you tell us a little bit about the book and why you went with Werecats? That's actually kind of fascinating.
Sure. Always Gray in Winter is the paranormal sci-fi thriller I wrote.
Okay.
About the modern day remnant of an ancient clan of Werecats, torn apart as militaries on 3 continents vie to exploit their deadly talents. It is first of a Werecat family saga series that I'm writing called A Shift in Season.
Okay.
And I suppose the only truthful answer I can give you why Werecats was because I thought they was cool. And
That's usually good enough, man.
there would be a bunch of others who might feel similarly.
Right.
And I'm glad to have the opportunity to meet you and your listeners, and perhaps there will be among them who will want to go to Amazon and check out Always Gray in Winter also, because maybe they think we're so cool too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's an audience for practically everything. That's what makes the world so interesting, I think. You landed on something that I don't see often, but there is a kind of that shifter, shifter fiction kind of thing that's very popular. Is there like an element of romance or anything in the book? Does it kind of fit that category as well, or is it straight up thriller?
Well, it has less to do with romance and more to do with innuendo and reference to things that had happened off camera between the main character, who's
Right.
this gal pictured on the cover, and her human male lover.
Okay.
But that really wasn't why I set out to write the book.
Right.
There are some other books that I have enjoyed, primarily Cheryl Nantis's Blood of the Pride series from Carina Press, which is a whole lot more of a straight up paranormal romance that also happens to feature Werecat characters. And Rachel Vincent had done her Stray series several years ago now is when she started, and I think she just recently wrapped up with book 6. So there is a burgeoning market for shifters in the paranormal romance area, and not just werewolves, but werecats, werebears. I've seen weredragons. I've seen some interesting anthropomorphic archetypes used.
Right.
But my book is not paranormal romance, and I found that out the hard way by submitting to some of those publishers. Having been rejected because there wasn't romance.
There wasn't no romance.
That just wasn't the story that I had in mind.
Right. No, but it is an integral part of a romance story. If you're going to submit a romance story, there should be some romance in the book, I guess.
Sure. And for this book too, as much as I enjoy books that have a happily ever after, this has less to do with that and more to do with a happily for now.
Yeah.
And intending to entice the reader to come back for book 2, 3, and see, how are we going to resolve all this? I think it has less to do with a cliffhanger that I ended on and more to do with ending on a note. One chapter ended and now another begins.
Right.
But they're at the back cover, so they're going to have to wait until the next book.
Okay. All right. When's the next book hitting?
Well, I am endeavoring to have the draft of the next book, a prequel, actually focused on when this character, Paulie, was a teenager and first discovers her unique capabilities, and focuses on her and her twin brother Tommy growing up Werecat.
Okay.
And that's going to be coming out. That's going to be draft's going to be finished with that. I'm aiming for after New Year's. There's going to be editing involved and copy editing and other stuff that goes into making the book ready for publication.
Right.
But and my publisher and I haven't actually established a date when that's going to be yet. But people who go to my website, mark-engels.com, be able to follow me on my social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, sign up for my mailing list, my email list. They'll be kept abreast of developments,
Right.
where we stand in the publication cycle.
That's cool. Yeah. So, so you have a publisher. Who are you publishing through?
Thurston Howell Publications is
the
name
Gilligan's
of it.
Island Thurston
Howl. The fellow's name who the publisher his name is Jonathan Thurston, but he happens to go online frequently by the moniker Howell.
Okay.
So, yeah. I'm of an age where I thought that was hysterical.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
There might be generations of your listeners now that have no idea what we're talking
about.
What
you're saying is don't read your book on a 3-hour tour.
No. Well, I suppose if I've done my job well, if I can hook someone's attention for a 3-hour tour.
Right. Yeah. So, well, that's interesting. Okay. So you had, so I have a scheduler, and you filled out all the fields. Thank you. Not everyone does that.
Yeah.
But I did ask for a topic, and you had actually pitched, and I like this. This is why I normally don't call out what the actual topic is, but you pitched constancy of purpose, remaining true to one's authorial intent. And I think that's such an interesting. I want to dig in on that. So when you're talking about constancy of purpose, what are you actually referring to?
Well, what I had in mind with this is that I actually had reused terminology that I remember from when Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People came out, and constancy of purpose was one of the items that he had listed, and I think it's important for an author especially because one really needs to understand what is it that you're doing, and why are you doing it? What are your measures of success? What are your individual acceptance criteria that tells you what you're going to do, and more importantly, tells you when you've accomplished that.
Right.
So I think that establishing constancy of purpose in one's writing, or what I've come to term as authorial intent, is very important for a writer to have, because it's going to be the yardstick against which everything else is measured. It's going to be the balance upon which you weigh advice given to you or things that you read online, because as we know, there are many websites which say many things, and also a large number of books. In my day job, I'm an electrical engineer, and I design railroad and rail transit signal and communications systems. So I'm quite used to using codes, standards, studying acceptable past practices, and applying them to a particular problem. In a creative endeavor such as writing, I found that it's all subjective, and frustratingly so. What one person says, do this because that's what I did and I did well with it. You might find someone equally as qualified to talk about this. And one of your past guests, Maggie Hogarth, and I were just talking about this in a chat session.
I was going to bring her up in a minute.
Furry Writers Guild member just before I came in here, very clearly that someone else just as successful may say, no, don't do that. Do this instead, because that's what worked for me.
Right.
And what I like to share with people, the experience that I have had, is that what worked for them there then may not work for me here now.
Right.
And assessing what will work or may work and what may not work well at all or may not suit your purpose is all tied back into authorial intent. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? And what measure will you use to know whether this is helpful or not?
Right. Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Maggie Hogarth, by the way, because I just hung out with her for a day or so at NINC in St. Pete's.
Okay.
So and you guys are both part of the Furry Writers Guild.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. So do you mind talking a little bit about that? Because she and I kind of briefly hit on that kind of thing in her interview, but we've never really fully discussed it. So I'd be curious to hear like what the setup is with that organization.
Oh, sure. Well, the Furry Writers Guild, if you Google the name, you'll probably come up right with just furrywritersguild.com is the
Right.
is the website. And it is an organization composed of people who happen to write stories about one or another type of anthropomorphic animals. And I suppose many of us never outgrew Looney Tunes.
Right.
Many of us, Maid Marian from the Robin Hood movie was my first boyhood.
Right.
Later, I grew up reading books like Robert C. O'Brien's Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim.
Right.
And then later, Jean Deweese's Adventures of a Two-Minute Werewolf. And for those people who are interested in writing about anthropomorphic characters, either entirely or who may include them in their work, or someone like me where the characters are human some of the time and furry some of the time, then I think this is an organization that can be helpful to people. Doesn't cost anything to join.
Right.
There's a tip jar, of course, because there are some costs involved with running the servers, and there is a forum that people can find out more about at furrywritersguild.com. There's also planned chats. We were just having one on our shout box just before I came in with you, where I was talking with Maggie about writing novels, in fact, with several of the other people that were there. There's also a number of people who hang out on a Slack channel that is available. So it's a real good resource for people who intend to write short stories, intend to write novels. You don't have to be a member to participate in most of those forums. There are a few the forums that are closed only to members because they have more to do with the business of the guild and elections and treasury reports and things like that. The joining requires one have at least one pro sale, either in a long form fiction like a novel, or shorter forms of fiction like short stories, or even bits for convention books. Is how some people ended up joining. So all of those details are listed on furrywritersguild.com along with a membership listing. And I credit the Furry Writers Guild with being very helpful for me, helping me find my publisher, Thurston Howell Publications, in the first place, because I didn't frankly know they even existed until I came to the Furry Writers Guild markets page, and there they were. Them and a couple of other markets I submitted to and had some requests from, and then ended up getting 2 offers. And then after doing some negotiating back and forth, Thurston Howell was the outfit that I decided to sign with.
So what made you decide to go with, because they're clearly, Thurston Howell is a small press, right?
Yes.
So what made you decide to do that versus, going full indie?
Well, I think I can say after a couple decades worth of going around the sun that I know enough to know that I don't know enough.
Right.
And I know that anyone can self-publish, but not anyone can self-publish well. And I think that if one has the authorial intent to publish well, one needs to, as Clint Eastwood's famous line says, know your own limitations.
Yeah.
And cover design wasn't a strong suit for me.
Right.
Book layout was not a strong suit for me. It was one of those things. Yeah, if I sat down and plowed my way through it, I could get it. I can also say that writers, for the most part, are blind to their own writerly foibles and really need to have someone edit their work. I strongly recommend that. And if you're going to go indie, then you're going to want to pay someone to do that.
Right.
And that is a reasonable path to follow. But for me, I decided let's follow this path first. And I can mention that at the moment today, Furry Writers Guild membership requirements require you have at least one pro sale, and self-published works today don't count for that. Now, there is some discussion going on right now. In fact, I think when Maggie Hogarth was an officer in the Science Fiction Fantasy Writers of America, she was instrumental in helping implement this, that there's now a provision for self-published writers to become members of SFWA. And I know that there has been more than a little bit of discussion of doing something similar.
Yeah. I was there I was there for the last Nebula Awards, and it's there's it's growing. There's an indie author presence sort of creeping in at SFWA, but they haven't fully embraced it just yet. So I mean, I'm happy to see them do it. I think,
and Maggie was among the vanguard. So she's I credit her with paving the way for the rest of us. But don't make no mistake. Those entry requirements are for small press, for self-pub, are still kind of high. It can be done. And I think that Furry Writers Guild is trying to implement something similar from the discussions that I have had with the other members there. It's more of a matter of, okay, how are we going to scale this to fit what this particular demographic can support? So we're still working that out to try to.
That's good. That's good to hear. I mean, I know that this is the whole shifter, there's shifter romance and there's shifter thrillers, that sort of thing. So there are a lot of indies who are doing this stuff now. So it would be, I don't know. I just I don't understand why an organization wouldn't allow certain indies in if they're killing it in sales and doing pretty well for themselves. But I do understand that there needs to be sort of a line there. So I get it. I
think it has more to do with like anything else. If it's easy to do something, then everybody's going to do it. If it's easy to self-publish and anybody can self-publish practically, there's going to be some people who learn how to do it very well, and there's going to be a lot of others who are not so much. And I think that trying to separate wheat from chaff is really where a lot of the where people get balled up with. What's acceptable to one person is not going to be so much to.
I come from a world where we don't want gatekeepers. I will get this out. I promise you. We don't want gatekeepers.
Right.
So, there's a sensitivity there. So, but no, that's okay. I mean, I get it. Every organization has to have their standards, and you don't represent those organizations. So I'm not trying to put you on the spot with any of that. So don't worry about it.
Well, you bring up a good point about gatekeepers, and I want to address that for a moment, if
Sure,
you don't.
sure. No, yeah.
Was
open for
it was because and you saw in the blurb I sent that part of what I subtitled my topic one was why I would write a Werecat book in a post-Twilight, no vampires, no werewolves publishing market. And I say that because going back to authorial intent, I knew that I wanted to tell the story of the modern day remnant of an ancient clan of Werecats torn apart by militaries on 3 continents. And I need to figure out what genre that is. And so I selected paranormal sci-fi thriller. And if I wasn't writing that, unlike many of my writer friends, if I wasn't writing that, I wouldn't be writing at all. And because that was the story that I had in my heart to tell. And it became very clear that that wasn't necessarily the story in any one reader's heart.
Right. Yeah.
To read. That became very clear to me. And it became especially clear when, after drafting the novel, after workshopping it with my writers group, Allied Authors of Wisconsin, and having found some additional pre-readers I knew from back in the anime and manga and anthropomorphic fandoms that I come from, they spent a lot of time with me helping get that novel polished to the point where I felt it was my best work. Yeah. I had told the story that I wanted to tell in the way I wanted to tell it. So then I start on the query trail, start looking at Twitter pitch parties and query contests. And what I found out by reading the agent and publisher blogs that were appearing in these venues, they were the buyers showing up to market.
Right.
Was that in big bold print in many places they were going out of their way to say no vampires, no werewolves. Right. So I figured, and because of the Twilight series came out, and the market was completely saturated.
Right. Yeah.
And now the authors that were signed then to publish into multiple book deals now are finally, those are starting to wear out. So some of that glut is starting to pass its way through the market, but there's still a residual effect is that everyone is saying no vampires, no werewolves. So I figure, hey, I got this. You want to make it different, but you don't want to make it so different that people can't relate to it. Hey, I got Werecats. Well, what I found out the hard way is that aside from the paranormal romance publishers like Carina Press, for example, who's still accepting submissions, no vampires, no werewolves means no shifters of any kind. Right. So where does that leave me? Like I mentioned, I set out to write the story that was in my heart to tell.
Right.
And I found after the space of, by the time I got about 70 or 80 rejections in, I had to ask myself, what am I doing? Is the issue with my craft or is the issue with my concept? Because I think all writers in their heart of hearts will be willing to admit, me certainly, I can always stand to improve my craft. I can always stand to do what I do better. But my concept, oh no, that's not negotiable. This is the story that I had in my heart to tell. And if I'm not telling this one, I'm not going to tell one at all. If I couldn't write this book, I was prepared to not write at all. Because why? I thought it was cool, and I labored under the delusion that there would be others who would. So what I had to really, because I had established that authorial intent, because I had established that constancy of purpose, I had to change how I looked at the publishing market, how I had to look at the gatekeepers that you mentioned in the publishing market.
Right.
Okay, agents, okay, publishers, here's the deal. This is the story I want to tell. Are you going to help me identify and deliver this to my audience, or aren't you?
Right.
And that really becomes the question at that point, because I knew it was a good book. I had other people tell me it was a good book.
Right.
I had put work into it to ensure it was a good book. The issue wasn't the book. The issue was the market and different people's opinions on what would sell and what wouldn't.
Right.
And so that's what finally brought me back to the Furry Writers Guild website again. I'd actually began my search there and then circled back to it months later, because at the time I went there at the first time, there was only 3 publishers, and none of them were accepting novel submissions, and they were all very clear in their submission guidelines. Don't ask us when we're opening either.
Yeah.
But when I went back there again, there were 9, and Thurston Howell was one of them.
Okay.
And we know the rest of the story there. But
The
for
rest
the fact that I had, but for the fact that I had constancy of purpose, that I had established my ethereal intent, I don't know if Always Gray in Winter would have ever seen the light of day. I would have taken the tack that I read so often and, well, trunk it or bin it or put it in a drawer and forget about it. And there's a lot of people who do that. And I think for those who use that as a development of the next story, I think that's fantastic. Good for you. But that wasn't going to work for me. What worked for them there then wasn't going to work for me here now. And so I kept at it. And well, now we have Always Gray in Winter, and people can.
There you go. There you go. And that's all the world can ask of anybody, is that we always have Always Gray in Winter. So, all right. Hey man, we're kind of getting toward the end here, so I want to wrap up out of respect to your time. And
Sure.
It's been fascinating because what you've got here really is a tale of, you had a story you wanted to tell. You believe there's an audience out there. Now we preach a message quite often of, go out and find the market and then write for that market. You kind of went the slightly different direction. You wrote it and hoping, I guess, that there's a market out there. How are sales? I mean, are you doing okay, right, with book sales?
Well, I can't complain. I mean, I think that being a member of Furry Writers Guild and talking with the friends that I made in Furry Writer Guild helped me establish what reasonable expectations would be for sale. And I can tell you that for this particular market niche, my sales are respectable.
Okay.
Compared to some other genres.
Hey, I talk to authors all the time who write in what you might consider more traditional genres who aren't making any sales. So I think that's fascinating. I love. It's clear you're passionate about the topic. It's clear that this is something that you're very interested in. You're a member of an organization dedicated to it. This is the kind of thing that I love. I love meeting authors who say, I had a book in my heart and I was going to get it out there, hell or high water. And I went, the thing you did that a lot of authors don't do, which I actually think is pretty awesome, is you kept searching until you found the right publisher, the publisher that not only wanted it, but wanted to do it your way, didn't want to change the whole thing. I think that's great, man. So congratulations on that. I think you did a great job. And
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I wish you the very best in luck and success with the book. So, okay, everybody, if you're paying close attention, you can check out all the things we've discussed on the show here. You can find on Mark's website, which there's a link in the show notes. It's mark-engels.com. You can also find him on Twitter, Facebook. I've got a link to his Amazon author page there. You're going to be able to find this guy. No problems. And Mark, you hang out. Everybody, you're probably hearing the groovy bridge music. It's going to take you into the wrap-up for the episode. Stick around. There's some housekeeping you're going to want to hear. You may dance in place at will, of course. And otherwise, we'll see all of you in the next episode of Word Slinger Podcast. And Mark's going to hang around and talk to me for a quick Word Slinger after show. If you're a Patreon subscriber, you get to hear what that's going to be all about. So tune in, and we'll see y'all next time. Hey there. So you may actually be wondering about that whole Patreon bonus, the after show, the Word Slinger after show. If you have been wondering about that, I'm holding my fingers very close together above the microphone to say that I am this close. If you go to patreon.com/Wordslinger podcast right now, you'll see the revamped Wordslinger podcast page there. That was sort of first steps. I got a new video up. I got new graphics up. I got a new description up. So we're almost there. I'm going to be releasing that content, the new content, very soon. It has to be produced, guys. It's basically like a whole other show. But I'm trying to simplify that, find a format for it that I think is going to work for everybody. And these are short little clips. They're like 5 to 10 minutes at the most. So they're something you can enjoy very quickly. And I'm happy to provide that to my Patreon subscribers. Every dime you send me in Patreon, of course, is used in the overhead and production of the show. So that's a little bit early. I wasn't going to jump into that kind of stuff yet. I want to jump in now to the industry news. Indie publishing news this week. You're going to find some of this pretty fascinating. First up, author earnings report is out. Data Guy is he's back after a year-long hiatus, and he does not disappoint. The latest author earnings report gives us some incredible insights into the industry, including a final confirmation that ebooks are, surprise, in not going away. According to the report, 55% of online book purchases in 2017 were in fact ebooks, and there's every indication that climb will continue. The report has generated some controversy, though, which is interesting. It had initially named certain authors and publishers, giving their sales ranking and other information. Some authors complained that this was a breach of privacy, which is sort of understandable. I can kind of understand it. But what do you think? I mean, does this impact privacy? Does it impact privacy to aggregate and report what is essentially publicly available data? And my personal take on this may not be popular, but I don't think it is. And I think that authors are being too sensitive about privacy when it comes to this data. This data actually can help you if you let it. But two, we're endangering a free service. Data Guy is doing this for free for us. Yes, he is going to start charging the industry for some of this data, and he's doing everything above board. So if we are not careful, we will not benefit from this data. That's my take. I do have some inside information into this that I cannot share, unfortunately, because I respect privacy laws as well. But Data Guy has actually gone out of his way to make sure that this report is in line with his responsibility to make sure that the authors are being protected. So and he's been willingly blocking out people's names if they request it. So I just feel like we should thank the guy rather than try to find some nefarious plot behind what he's doing. I think we should go thank the guy and help him do this, because this information is very useful to us. This data is something we can't just get on our own. So anyway, if you're listening, Data Guy, thank you very much. I appreciate you. I know a lot of other folks do. You can find a link to a story about this in the show notes of this episode. So go check that out and pop into the comments there on Author Earnings Report and just say thanks to Data Guy. I would appreciate that. I know he would too. Google Play is now set to offer audiobooks. This is interesting to me, especially with after dealing with audiobooks with our deal with Findaway, Draft Digital's partnership with Findaway on the launch of Findaway Voices. Google Play has had a turbulent time trying to enter and keep a foothold, really, in the content marketplace. And it's with the whole Google Play Store is essentially, it's difficult to navigate. It's largely devoid of content beyond what you could find at an airport bookstore, honestly. And as they continue to work on those challenges, it looks like they're making a bid to go toe-to-toe with Audible and iTunes for the audiobook market. This week, Google announced it will start carrying audiobooks in the Google Play Store specifying that there is no subscription and that many of the popular audiobooks that you might be after will be sold at a discount, which is exciting news for consumers. Could be exciting news for authors as well. Could this be a true contender for knocking Audible off of the hill, giving both consumers and authors a better shot? I'd love to hear what you think on that in the comments on this episode. You can pop over to wordslingerpodcast.com, find this episode and its show notes, and leave me a comment, or hit the contact button there and send me some send me a little bit of what you think. I think that this is interesting, but so far I've been less than impressed with what Google Play has done for authors, or made available for indie authors in particular. You can't get on their storefront now unless you're grandfathered in right now, or unless you go through a service. Why should that be? And no one's given me a satisfactory answer to that. I'm sure there is one. You can tell me if you know. But I don't feel that I haven't heard a reason yet that makes that much sense to me. So Google Play offering audiobooks, I think, could be handy for authors to reach a new market and to keep more of the royalty. No word really at this point as to whether they are going to consider indie authors in this or not. This may only be aimed at the traditional market right now. Or more likely, some company like Findaway Voices will come along and become the gateway to get into Google Play with audiobooks. That would certainly be beneficial to a lot of indie authors. So, and particularly if you go in through Draft to Digital, you don't have to pay the $50 admin fee if you sign up through Draft to Digital. So you can do that, by the way, at findawayvoices.com/D2D, or you can do it through your Draft to Digital dashboard. And either way, Draft to Digital gets a little bit of a credit for that, so I appreciate that. Apple takes another swing at Amazon over ebooks. Now, back in 2012, Apple was kind of smacked down by the U.S. Department of Justice for a variety of reasons. There was a little bit of a tiff between Apple and Amazon and other ebook distributors in the U.S. Basically, the accusation was that there was a collusion between these companies to hike up the prices of ebooks. And Apple actually ended up paying a pretty hefty fine for that. I think it's not really hefty to Apple, but it was in the tune of about $250 million, I believe. So now they're taking another run at this. They're looking, first of all, they've been doing a lot to revamp a lot of their customer-facing services. I think they're overall trying to sort of inject new energy and new blood and new life into the Apple brand and move away from the sort of the old school, old era stuff that they were known for as they enter into a new generation and appeal to a new generation. The tiny little I is starting to disappear from everything, for example. The iTunes Music Store has been renamed the Apple Music Store as one example. And iBooks will be renamed just simply Books as they also revamp the interface for their app and their reading experience there. They are clearly making a bid to become everyone's go-to service for ebooks. Don't think that's going to work, personally. I think I love what Apple's doing. I wish them well on it. I hope they do actually have an impact on the industry. But the problem for me will always be the walled garden concept. Amazon has some of this going for it, at least in terms of KDP Select, requiring authors to be exclusive to KDP in order to use some of Amazon's special services like promotions, get paid by page reads, that sort of thing. Apple does the same sort of thing for consumers. You are locked into Apple and Apple devices and Apple software if you want to use Apple products, such as their books. So I think that's going to work great for them, for the millions and millions of users who are already in the Apple ecosystem. But as far as attracting new readers with Apple's new Books app, I don't see how they're going to be able to do it. I mean, if you happen to own an Apple product, that's great. But who wants to spend, at this point, thousands of dollars When you can go buy any e-reader for under $100 at this point, and I say any e-reader, an e-reader from any of the major retailers, anywhere from $50 to maybe 200, possibly 300 if you want something that's actually more than just an e-reader. Why would you spend, Apple's exorbitant prices just to be able to read ebooks? So that's not going to happen. The only way you're going to do that is if you're already an Apple user, or if you are wanting to become an Apple user for more than just reading. So I don't think it's going to work unless they have a plan that they haven't revealed to the public, which is entirely possible. So I know a few Apple folks. I've got some inside track there, and they're, of course, they can't talk about anything legally, so we don't get a whole lot of inside news. But there's, from the conversations I have had, I don't feel there's any indication that we will see anything, just game changing come out of this. But what do you think? Is this just more of the same stuff? Are we just is this just going to be more walled garden kind of stuff, or are we going to actually see something grow out of this? I'd love to hear your take on it. So that's the industry news this week. In this episode of the Word Slinger podcast, of course, is sponsored by Draft to Digital. You heard the promo at the beginning of the episode. You can convert, publish, and distribute your book worldwide with support the whole way. And you can help me out a little with this too. If you go to drafttodigital.com/wordslinger, I get a little kickback there. So hop on over there, sign up for Draft to Digital, start distributing your books. They take 10% of your royalty, and that's it. All this other stuff they offer: ebook layout, print book layout, your distribution, automated in matter, all these tools that Draft to Digital offers. They're yours for free. You don't even have to distribute through these guys. You can go in and get your ebook and your print book layouts, and then download those and give them away to folks if you want, or go use them to go direct to other ebook distributors. But if you distribute through Draft to Digital, you do get some advantages, such as a really cool, really easy, all-in-one dashboard where you can see all your sales and royalties. And you can control when books go live, when they get taken down. We offer some promotions and other benefits that you aren't likely to get elsewhere. So there are some advantages to going with us as an aggregator, and otherwise, we completely understand. It's your book, you own it, you have all the rights and all the control. We just want to help you succeed. So if we can do that, great. Check that out at drafttodigital.com/wordslinger, and they'll be helping us all out at that point. You can also take control, get more readers, and increase your Kindle rankings with KDP Rocket. Now, this is a great tool for keyword research. I actually use this tool for more than just finding keywords for my Amazon and ebook retailer listings. I use this for keyword research for just about everything. Google ads, Facebook ads, Amazon ads, all that stuff. Even some of the stuff I do on Twitter. I use KDP Rocket to find keywords that are going to hit the right demographic for what I'm looking for. So go check that out. And that's not an official use, by the way. That's just I worked out how to do this. You can too. It's actually a great tool. So go check it out. You can find that at bit.ly/KDP Slinger. And of course, there are links to both of these in the show notes. Support this show on Patreon. I already mentioned this earlier, but if you go to patreon.com/wordslingerpodcast, I'm doing some work there, man, and it's going to be cool. I know I've been talking about this for years, really, but I'm finally getting there, and I'm about to get it together when it comes to the Wordslinger After Show, which is going to be special content you can only get when you are a Patreon supporter. So whatever you feel like throwing my way, it will be greatly appreciated. All proceeds go to the overhead of the show. They help me buy new equipment, help me pay for hosting. I just dropped almost $500 for hosting for various platforms just this past week. So, I do appreciate a little help with that, but I appreciate all of your help, actually. If you subscribe to this show and share it with folks, I will be very grateful. Go on iTunes. Rate and rank the show. Give me 5 stars if you feel like it. But tell me a little about what you like about the show, what you're getting out of it. That's always appreciated, and it helps a lot. So, and of course, you can pick up something to read at kevinthomas.com/books. My new book, my newest Dan Kotler thriller, an archaeological thriller, The Girl in the Mayan Tomb. That releases, if you're listening to this on launch day, it's releasing today. And this is the last day to get it for just $2.99. The price goes up to $4.99 after this. So check it out. You can find that at books2read.com/Mayan-tomb. And of course, there'll be a link to that in the show notes. If you go to kevinthomason.com, you can actually see it right there on the homepage and click through on the banner as the current hero on the homepage. So go there, check it out. I believe this is going to be one of the best received books I've published to date. So just judging by sort of the pre-chatter and things that are going on with it right now. So I'm excited about it. The readers have loved it so far. I've seen some reviews that people are preparing to make live. It's had more pre-orders than any other book I've published, and by far. I mean, if you combined all the books I've published, all of their pre-orders, this one actually would still be at the top. So people are digging it. So go check it out. Anyway, that's it for this week's show. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I try to give you kind of a wide range of topics here on the Word Slinger podcast, more than just indie publishing news and entrepreneur news. I hope that you are finding something that helps you work out the best path for your life and career. That's what I'm here for. So be inspired, be entertained, be informed, and be educated. All those words, in not that particular order, are in the mission statement for the show. So enjoy yourself out there. God bless each of you, and I'll see you all next time.
Word Slinger.